Dillian the Body Snatcher right here. It's a champ. Big up to Sporting Icon. Subscribe. Otherwise, I might pay you guys a visit.
Now, I've been seeing quite a few videos pop up lately from non-Wilder fanboy channels, okay? I haven't watched any of the Wilder fanboy channels in a long time. I don't need to, okay? We know what it is, exactly what they're going to say. Every single one of their videos is about hating on somebody else, okay? So we know what it is that they're going to say, especially when it comes to Wilder, okay? They're just repeating the same thing, but with a different thumbnail, okay? So what the impression that I'm getting is that the Wilder fanboys are not too happy with Oleksandr Usyk mentioning the name of Deontay Wilder. Apparently, they've been saying that Usyk is using Deontay Wilder's name as profile building. All these kind of things. Some of them, of course, will probably be in bed with Wilder, not literally, although they probably like to be, but saying how Usyk is probably too small and Wilder will absolutely smash him. But at the same time, if the fight was becoming a realistic option, then these guys will probably say that how Wilder shouldn't fight Oleksandr Usyk. Usyk, he hasn't earned it enough at heavyweight. He's got to prove it. Forget what he's done at cruiserweight. All this kind of stuff, okay? But as far as a name building, Usyk using the name of Wilder, first of all, Usyk was asked about Wilder, okay? He didn't just mention the name Wilder, but it was Wilder who first mentioned Usyk. So who's really using whose name? And if you want to go with that narrative, these are the same people who are not going with that narrative when Wilder was quite blatantly using the names of Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, because Wilder has very little profile. And it's unfortunate, because I've said in the past that I feel Wilder should have a better fan base. But unfortunately now, the fan base that he does have, for the most part, not all Wilder, he does have some pretty decent, honest fans, but there is a section of them where you can quite blatantly see that these guys are just absolute morons, okay? And they make people dislike Wilder because of their actions, because of how they speak about him, how they put him on some kind of pedestal, and criticise everybody else when their own guy hasn't done anything. Who's he got on his resume in 42 fights that he's beaten? He should have a loss on his resume, okay? But he's got a draw against Tyson Fury, but we all know that should be a loss. Luis Ortiz, again, maybe that's a credible name. Maybe it isn't. We don't know how good Luis Ortiz is. We just don't know, because, again, Luis Ortiz has consistently ducked some of the top fights with Dillian Whyte. Again, there's receipts for that. And, of course, more recently with Anthony Joshua. Again, there is a receipt and paper trail for that. Much like Wilder has ducked both Klitschko brothers. He ducked Oleksandr Povetkin. Again, check out that before you go, yeah, but Povetkin, he failed a PED test. Look into it a bit more and you'll see exactly what it is I'm talking about. I ain't going to repeat it all again. And, of course, he's ducked Dillian Whyte and he's ducked Anthony Joshua. So basically, with Wilder versus Luis Ortiz, a rematch that nobody's asking for, and they're going to be charging, what, $75, $85, however much it is for it on pay-per-view on Fox, which is, in my opinion, is going to flop pretty bad, okay? It's going to flop just like an 80-year-old man, okay? It's just going to go south. It really is. But anyway, they're putting on a fight that nobody's interested in seeing. Because Luis Ortiz, he's way past it now, okay? You can see that in the past 2 or 3 fights. But both of these guys turned down Anthony Joshua, life-changing money for both of them. Wilder, $100 million, and of course, Luis Ortiz for $7 million. Again, fact, not opinion. Both these guys turned it down. So essentially, this is the battle of the duckers. But coming back onto Oleksandr Usyk, he had his professional debut last night at heavyweight, where he defeated a guy that he was expected to defeat. Yes, it was a very short notice fight. Wasn't really the kind of fight that most people were really that interested in my opinion. And again, I don't think people were that interested in the Tyrone Spong fight either before that got cancelled. But either way, he did fight Chaz Witherspoon. He did what he had to do. It wasn't a spectacular performance, but you know what? He did what he had to do based on the short notice that he had. But going forward, Oleksandr Usyk doesn't need the name of Deontay Wilder. Oleksandr Usyk, based on in-ring capabilities, has done so much more than what Wilder has. Wilder's had 42 fights, done nowhere near what Usyk has done, and that was his 17th fight, I believe, off the top of my head last night. 17th fight, I think it was. And prior to that, he became undisputed cruiserweight world champion, much like Evander Holyfield did. With the difference being, Oleksandr Usyk, he went to the country of all those opponents to collect the belts. Okay, he didn't do it in his home yard to get home advantages or anything like that. In my opinion, it was a bit of a dubious decision when he fought Bradis. For me, I felt that Bradis may have just edged it or a draw. But hey, listen, I've only seen it the once, and I know a lot of people disagree with me on that one. But fact is, he did become undisputed. He then went to London, took on Tony Bellew as well. So he already has achieved so much more than what Wilder has done in his entire 11-year professional career. And that's not even mention the amateurs. So again, if you want to talk about profile building, well, Oleksandr Usyk has a much bigger profile worldwide than what Deontay Wilder does. Wilder's profile has always been because of he's supposed to be fighting certain fighters, but he just doesn't do it. Much like a Anthony Joshua, for example. So he's always piggybacking off the names. So it's very, very rich if the Wilder fans are indeed going on about how Usyk is trying to use the name of Wilder. Wilder doesn't have a name except for being a cherry picker, being a terrible world champion with an awful resume, and ducking the biggest fights possible, and consistently lying, saying how one face, one name, and every time he gets the opportunity, it's not about money, it's about legacy, and he just turns the fights down. But these people will back him up. The guy said he wants to be pregnant. Listen, Wilder doesn't have a name based on what he's done in the ring. Wilder has a name based on the fact that people just talk about him to say, what is it that you're actually going to do? Why are you lying? Why are you avoiding these fights? That's the name he has. The Wilder fans don't like hearing it. They want to believe that he's the baddest man on the planet. He's a boogeyman, which is probably why they're a little bit anti-Oleksandr Usyk. Besides the fact that he's a wrong skin colour for them, okay? Because we know a lot of these guys have a history of extreme racism, that if you're white or anything like that, then they ain't going to like you. Full stop. Much like they hate on Vasyl Lomachenko. They've been hating on Triple G and all these other kind of things and that as well. And in addition to that, because they're a Wilder fan, it does appear that Wilder fans, they lose all sense and common sense even at the door, okay? Once you become a Wilder fan, you become a little bit dumb, okay, or dumbed down, because nobody can be that dumb walking through life. You really can't. But some of these people are. They talk about how Wilder is the baddest man on the planet. Everyone's avoiding him. But yet loads of people are offering him fights. Usyk, Joshua, the Klitschko, is a Vlad Klitschko. Plenty of people have offered him fights, but he keeps turning them down. So therefore, you can't say he's the baddest man on the planet, and you can't say that he is avoided when loads of people want to fight him. You just can't say it. That's not the reality of it. The reality of it is that Wilder could be the best. Could be. But unfortunately, he's a terrible fighter. So he doesn't do anything in a fight other than throw one big punch. People want to see a heavyweight dominate a few rounds here and there and then get the knockout. That's what people gravitate to. What people don't gravitate to is somebody consistently losing round after round after round and then just landing a big right to win the fight. People are just not that impressed by that. That's just a case of, okay, so you throw the one big right hand. What else do you do? And that's the fact of it. Listen, Oleksandr Usyk, he doesn't need Deontay Wilder. And with Deontay Wilder talking about how Usyk is too small and whatever, for me, that's a blatant sign of let's get adding him to a resume of fighters that Wilder is going to duck. Okay, he ain't going to give Usyk no voluntary defense. If he is, fight Oleksandr Usyk then. If Tyson Fury isn't going to be ready, we know Fury and Wilder already have a contract for February 22nd. If Tyson Fury, if his eye or whatever can't be or will stop him from competing on February 22nd, cool, go fight Usyk. We know Usyk is mandatory for the WBO, so he is already in line to fight the winner of Ruiz and Joshua after Kubrat Pulev. I believe that's what the situation is right now. So Usyk, he's not going to have a fight for quite some time if his next fight is actually going to be for a world title. So why doesn't Wilder fight him? But we know that ain't going to happen. We know it ain't going to happen because Usyk will probably do him. Anybody with a bit of movement and a bit of skill, Wilder struggles with. We've seen it time and time again. He struggled with Arthur Spilka up until, again, he landed the big punch. He was struggling with Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury won that fight. Yes, he got dropped twice, but again, dropped twice. Again, people seem to put it down to 10-8 rounds. Again, it's a fantasy. They're not 10-8 rounds. Okay, because you still have to win the rest of the round in order for it to be 10-8. Wilder did neither in round 9 or round 12. So effectively, both those rounds were 9-9. Again, fact, look up the rules. You lose 1 point if you get dropped. So, but even if he did get 10-8 rounds, he still lost the fight. So again, people know that. His own fans know that. And the realistic ones admit that as well and say, listen, man, you should have a loss in your resume. Yes, Wilder's trying to get the fight with Tyson Fury to avenge that, if you like, and rightfully so. I can't knock him for that. But if he's not going to be fighting Fury on February 22nd, and if the WBC haven't called the mandatory against Dillian Whyte, again, Wilder, his little knees will be knocking if he's got to fight Dillian Whyte. I'll tell you right now, Dillian Whyte will smash him to pieces and knock him out cold. I'm telling you right now, he will. Again, you guys don't want to hear that. But listen, his fans, it's quite clear, isn't it? Oleksandr Usyk has got his fans shook. He's got Wilder fans shook. And every time somebody who's a credible threat is linked with Wilder, these guys turn the hate machine right the way up. They can't help it. It is what it is. But Oleksandr Usyk is coming for Deontay Wilder's neck, much like Dillian Whyte, much like Tyson Fury, much like Anthony Joshua, much like plenty of other fighters want Deontay Wilder. And it won't be long before Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce are knocking on the door for that as well. F.A. Jagba, there's going to be quite a few. But Wilder unlikely to take these fights unless he's absolutely forced to. He'd rather fight old men that he's already beaten once and nobody's asking for a rematch. But hey, listen, this is the mindset of Wilder. This is the same mindset of some of Wilder's extremist fans. They want to call him the baddest man on the planet. Listen, nobody has an issue with you thinking he's going to be the best, but he's got to prove it and stop making excuses for him. Simple as that, isn't it? Drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.